So before we start this video, I'm just gonna say that I love watching Kakarot's videos. I'm not gonna say anything nasty about him, but I am going to react to some of the stuff that he's saying about Metaverse because he's obviously more in the knowledge about this kind of thing, actually having gone into the test. I have not seen anywhere in this video past like the first minute of it, but this is just gonna be a genuine reaction from me. I'm literally just going to take choice bits that I find are a bit crazy or whatever, and I'm going to react to those. So yeah, by all means, please go and look at Kakarot's video and look at his content because it's really good. Anyway, let's get on with this.
Was able to sneak in, and I even managed to get in early. But before we
Okay.
dive into the metaverse, I need to address the giant elephant in the room. The
Oh,
recommended requirements for this are an i7-10700 CPU,
what?
an RTX 2070 Super, and 16 gigabytes of RAM.
Yeah, my face went, hang on, let me check here. I think if I'm right about this, then not even VRchat uses that. VRchat specs. So for VRchat, which I keep saying it'd be really good if the metaverse was basically like it, VRchat requires that you have a i5 4590 or greater with 4 gigabytes of RAM and a 970 at the least, and a dedicated, I think it's 4 gigs of video RAM, plus the minimum requirements of like Windows 7. So yeah, that's ridiculous because like the idea is that you make it more accessible to more people by lowering the hardware specs. That way you can get more people in. That's why I like VR chat so much. So that's ridiculous.
And if that doesn't like immediately tell you anything, these are mind-blowingly ridiculous and bloated specifications for the graphics and content that we're actually getting.
So here we're seeing the lobby at the moment, right? Which doesn't look any special. You know, you could probably see this again in something like this in VR chat. For anyone that's familiar with my content, you'll know I spend a lot of time in the Undernet hub recently, and it's pretty much like that. This is what I imagined the metaverse was going to be like. But again, we've got to think about what they're trying to implement in here. And it's stuff like we can see there's some crossover, or they've planned for crossover with content like the VR Gundam scanning thing that they've got. So let's try. We know that runs on the new Gundam Breaker engine, or rather, when you look at footage of it and compare, we can make a good assumption based off like animations and effects and stuff. The older stuff, where you get to see kits running around and things, that so looks like it's on the new Gundam Breaker engine, which was Unreal Engine 4, and the specs for that, new Gundam Breaker specs, PC, that requires a Intel 2 quad at minimum, 4 gigabytes of RAM, a GTX 460. So yeah, it's even less. It requires less than this. So I don't see why it would require that much. That's really stupid.
If we take their word for these requirements, the Gundam Metaverse, which aims to be more of a social media platform, is harder to run than recent AAA games like Armored Core 6 and the remake of Resident Evil 4.
Okay, that is not, again, it's that whole thing of if you want a lot of people to be able to access this thing, like I'm on board with the whole metaverse thing, like for seeing what happens with it, on the idea that it works kind of like VR chat, where it's open to everybody, it's easy to access, the specs aren't too high. This is asking way too much of everybody. That immediately is going to alienate a lot of people, which you don't want if you're Bandai. So that was a really, really crazy move from them. I don't think it'll work out well. The whole way that the avatars are designed kind of reminds me of the Xbox Live avatars that they've got. Uh, we all know it's deliberately, or rather, it's deliberately done as a way to target kids and young adults because that's mainly their audience. Uh, it would have been ideally better if they'd have allowed more customization, but at the moment, this looks. I mean, I've only took like 2 seconds of a look at it, but it looks pretty bare bones basic. Let's
And the
see.
lack of anti-aliasing isn't doing them any favors. To
Oof.
make matters worse yet, the customization is limited to preset characters and preset color schemes.
Yeah, they'll be doing that to avoid any issues or inconsistencies and just weird looking stuff. I imagine they want to keep the look for the brand a specific way so that it just doesn't look too crazy or weird. Um, Again, I just said it before. It'd be cool if they had like full customization, like you'd expect from a much bigger thing, like a game or whatever. Say like Oblivion or uh, games like that where they allow you to mess around and customize every part of your avatar or your character. But I imagine, again, it's pretty much like, say, a car company that doesn't want their car to be damaged in a video game, so they'll turn around and be like, "Yeah, we're just not putting our car design in that game." I imagine it's something like that where Bandai are like, "Look, we want people to have access to Gundam, but we're going to control how much customizability they have, so they don't do any crazy, ugly looking stuff because we don't like the idea of that." I like the way that, unlike Xbox avatars, though, that I keep referencing, you can actively equip things. So you can get, like, the classic shield and beam rifle, or Exia's GN sword, or Barbatos's big sword there. Or you've got the stuff from, like, Build Fighters Try, and then what looks like Witch of Mercury.
I'm just hoping that Bandai will seriously expand upon this for the full release. And when I'm loaded into the world, I have a completely different character.
Huh, interesting. Like, I'm expecting them to do what Microsoft did with like the avatars in terms of like the items and stuff. They'll slowly add more and more, and you might see them start charging for that kind of extra stuff. It's like, oh, you can pay a little bit here and there and get a little bit more customization. I can see them doing that already.
Or the controls, go to this place, that's what it's for, go to the next place, rinse and repeat. And as a tutorial, it isn't really the greatest, to be honest, because it doesn't actually point you in the right direction. It just tells you to go somewhere in this world that you've just been dropped into, and there's no arrow to follow or a giant flashing beacon to go to. Again, keep in mind that this is not supposed to be a video game and is instead supposed to be more of a social media thingy. So, yes, I did see people who got lost and couldn't find certain points to finish the damn tutorial.
To be fair, there are a load of things at the moment that they could do to streamline this and make it better quality of life wise, and including beacons or waypoint markers would be really good. But I've experienced stuff that's very similar, that doesn't actually have waypoint markers either. And sure, you see people stumbling around a little bit for like the first hour or maybe a little bit less, but once they kind of learn the layout, it's not too bad. And I imagine like after a little bit with new people coming in, that's the way that if they were keeping it like this, that they would sort of pitch it to people in terms of like interactivity with them, saying, oh yeah, you can just get older members or older people that actually know the location to point out where things are for you, and then that kind of promotes user interactivity. So I can see an argument to and like for and against waypoint markers. It's really stupid, but it's again all kinds of things that you have to consider when looking at this type of thing. Again, it is also a test version, so it might be that they want to implement that stuff later down the line.
What if I check out the mass production new Gundam next to it?
Okay, let's see if this...
The same
Yeah,
aerial.
yeah.
And for some reason, the game is no longer registering my mouse clicks, so...
So what that might be is it might be a placeholder to kind of give you an idea of what they want there, and they're still working on that as of, you know, the beta being available and also this recording being done. It's I don't know why it's locked up the mouse though, or the ability to scroll. That again might be another issue with it that they need to work out. Oh boy, all I'm getting from this at the moment is it's incredibly buggy, and you know, I don't want to sound like I'm constantly making excuses for them, but it is a beta, you know.
Oh, that's awesome too. Let's go upstairs to check out the 3Dified scanned Gunpla.
Now this I actually like, this looks really good.
And seeing them like this is pretty cool. So cool, in fact, that the game couldn't handle it and crashed.
Okay, so that's what a, it's actually, oh it is. So it's Unreal? The UE, Unreal Engine, Gundam Game Metaverse has crashed, fatal error. Okay, so I'm wondering whether it's running Unreal Engine 5 then instead of Unreal Engine 4. Now, the reason why they would do this, I've theorized this again earlier on and in some of my other videos. I said that it might be related to them trying to link the VR scanning technology that they're using with the metaverse, because that way they can essentially just have it where you scan stuff, it goes straight to the metaverse, because of the way that they've been working on Unreal Engine technology. It has a way of being used in a browser. But of course, this isn't a browser, this is its own dedicated program. So there's no real reason for using Unreal Engine for that, outside of them, again, building off the framework of New Gundam Breaker, which we established before. I thought it would have been like a browser-based thing, that would have made more sense, but no, they've just tried to seemingly shove all of this in what I can assume is Unreal Engine 5, which would explain why, like, they're using New Gundam Breaker's code as a base because that's the thing that they've got working and they have right there and is accessible to them. But that might also explain why a lot of the other stuff to do with like the scanning event and things is so sort of stiff and jerky at the moment, because they're using it just as a base to kind of work off, and as a result, they don't have all the extra assets or things done or polished, or maybe they just want to use that stuff because it's easy and doesn't require them to do much more developing on top of what they already have.
And, well, the walls are indeed filled with a variety of Gunpla-related content, ranging all from how to take pictures to how to build them. And
so, again, this is something that I'm not against, primarily because of me experiencing it. Like, for anyone that's been in VRchat, you'll know that being in worlds like this, where there's a lot of stuff to interact with, just differently, is really cool. I definitely think the avatars need some extra form of interaction with everybody. The whole idea with being able to scan in your gunpla and potentially use that in gameplay, as we've seen and talked about already, that's really cool. As a potential thing, and also it would be cool if they had a optional extra for putting stuff in VR. That would make sense as to why there's like first person views in certain instances in some of the other videos that Kakarot's covered. But again, all of this stuff that they're showing off already can be done in like lower end places like VRchat, where the specs are a lot lower. It's just really weird how they're essentially trying to recreate all of that in Unreal Engine, which I it seemingly is just either not optimized or it's new specs and nuts. I have no clue what they're doing with this.
It's just a really inconvenient storefront that is locked behind heavy-duty hardware. The real kicker, though, is when I try to purchase one of these Gunpla.
Okay.
When I clicked on them, the screen just flashed black and nothing happened. And when I tried it again, it just did it again and again.
Potentially because the feature isn't coded yet because it's a beta. I imagine they're gonna wait because they don't want people to like try purchasing something and then have like a ton of rejected like purchases that go on people's cards and then deny them access to the bank accounts and things. But maybe that's me thinking about it too much. I don't know.
At first, I thought this was just the metaverse being buggy, but then a thought popped up in my head. They couldn't have. They wouldn't. They did.
Hmm?
The buy button opens up an actual web page in the background, which I cannot access from inside of the metaverse unless I alt tap to it. This is some seriously atrocious design.
I mean, it still technically brought up the website that you wanted. No, I'm not going to defend that. That really was crazy. You expect everything to be in app so that you can buy stuff with ease without having to exit out. That stands more for Kakarot's point that he's making of just why would you want something like this, to go through the extra hassle when you can just do it at your computer. So yeah, that's definitely that's definitely really stupid of them doing that.
Every day you can pull 5 digital card-ass cards that are put into your digital card-ass card album that you can then look at. It's like Steam trading cards, except more useless.
I mean, to be honest, like looking at it here, it's got information for the different cards, like relating to what they've shown or the artwork for them. That's actually really cool at finding out about stuff that you're not familiar with, and the artwork itself looks pretty nice.
Because these literally don't do anything else. There's 42 to collect, and well, since you get 5 a day, I don't think you're gonna have to log in that much to collect them all.
Yeah, I imagine they're making that easy for people just so they're not creating this whole thing of just people getting frustrated with not being able to get their hands on certain ones.
That is, if you even want to log in every day. Because that's the biggest thing I noticed with the Metaverse. During this test, I saw everything that it had to offer in less than an hour. And while
That sounds about right. That's kind of the same with VRchat and stuff in certain worlds. You can find everything in certain ones within like an hour and explore it, and it's pretty cool. But again, it's more the community aspect of things getting together when more people are on, talking to them and interacting. That's where the magic happens. I'm not saying it will with the Gundam Metaverse, but it definitely makes it more enjoyable.
I floated around the RX-78-2 statue and tried to go out of bounds.
I honestly thought he was going to say he logged out and turned it off then. So now he's trying to break stuff. Let's see what happens.
Which I succeeded in. But unfortunately, there was an invisible wall preventing me from going any further. And as sad as it might sound, trying to go out of bounds was the second most fun I had.
You know it's crazy and bad when users are resorting to trying to break out of your own game world that you've made. That's when you know you need more content fast. Okay, so yeah, It's pretty funny. It's funny when you think about it. Coming from that angle, it's like, it's buggy. Clearly, nobody's going on it at the moment, so it's looking really worrying. And they spent a massive amount on seemingly nothing, or something that they could have done again, which would have been more accessible to a lot of people for a lot cheaper. Then again, hating on something is a lot easier than trying to find the good points in it. This isn't me stabbing at Kakarot when I say that. I just try and find the good in everything personally. And I seriously can't find much good in the metaverse at the moment. Kakarot, if you see this, hit me up. I'll find some way of contacting me. I'll show you a better way that this is done in like VRchat or whatever, if you want to just hang out and see it for yourself and kind of get an idea of what they may have been trying to go for. But yeah, I agree with you at the moment. This is not the right way of doing things. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Check out this video in full, and I'll see you on the next one. So until then, bye.